Okay, what is philosophy? What is philosophy is what I would call a monster question. It's one of those things that makes people's eyes roll. It sets off endless debate, and I think in the end can be a trap not to fall into. I think of philosophy, it can be pretty simply talked about. I talk about a big P philosophy. Big P philosophy is what most people associate with philosophy. It has to do with traditions. It has to do with big P people philosophers like Nietzsche and Zhuangzi and those kinds of things. And what I call little p philosophy. And little p philosophy to me is what each of us has. Each of us has a content that shapes the way we view the world. Now, both of those, big P and little p, has a content. The content of big P philosophy is, to me, part of what gets it into trouble. It's why most people roll their eyes when they hear philosophy, because philosophy is something that you have to be old to do, you have to be wise. Only a few select people are able to do it. It is generally esoteric and out of reach. As opposed to little p philosophy, which is much more accessible. It really connects with why I love the work I do doing philosophy with children. Because for me, the little p philosophy is what we're all born with. And anybody that's around young children knows we come into this world filled with a sense of wonder. And we ask these amazing, wonderful questions. For most of us, sadly, as we go along, we lose that sense of wonder. And for those few in whom it survives, I think, unfortunately for some of them, they go to a university and they think, ah, yes, I'm going to take a philosophy class. And they go in, and too often what they encounter is what Charles Schulz eloquently calls they learn big names of big name people. They read these texts that they can hardly understand a word of. And so they learn about philosophy, but they never really get to do philosophy. So when I think about philosophy, this monster topic, I think about these two areas, big P philosophy and little p philosophy. And the challenge as I see it, the big P philosophy, the challenge that I think the East-West Philosophers Conference grapples with every time it comes around again is how are we going to bring together this too frequently esoteric, highfalutin discipline that hardly anyone can participate in, together with what I've found in working with children and working with teachers and other people in that wider public and community that's hungry, starving really, for some of the insights and skills that are part of this discipline that those of us that are in it both in a way love and hate at the same time. One of the quotes that I like to think about from one of the big P people is John Dewey, who said, and I can never remember quotes exactly, I'm not good at the big P stuff, but in effect that philosophy is nothing but a general theory of education. And what I really like about that is that I think Dewey saw that if you want to create a certain type of person that has the very best of what philosophy has to offer, of becoming philosophical, you have to think about education. Because people are not, even though young children have a tremendous sense of wonder, if something more systematic doesn't happen to that wonder along the way, it's going to get lost or buried. So something has to happen more systematically towards what the Chinese tradition calls self-cultivation. There have to be deliberate efforts to cultivate this. So what I see the connection between philosophy and education, and philosophy for children in particular, is an effort to make Dewey's idea and ideal real. Can we find a way to start with that wonderful burst of wonder that we all have and find ways of more systematically cultivating that as part and parcel and really an essential part of what's called education? Badia, badia, badia. That's all, folks. You mean it's not?